Hey, podcast world. Welcome to another episode of FNO InsurTech. We're Rob Beller and
Lee Boyd.
Hi, Lee.
Hey, Rob. How are you today?
I'm fabulous. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. It's a wonderful day here. It's a great day just to have a podcast.
Yeah, and speaking of which, we are turning an interesting corner today. Did you know that?
I did know that. I'm very, very excited about this.
We have the guys from Hover on today.
We do. We have Kevin and Justin on today.
Kevin Reilly and Justin Hancher, who are both big shots at Hover, who we have worked with a lot. I met Justin and Kevin about a year ago at the Symbility Symposium in Miami, and our relationship has grown from there to include being a customer of theirs and theirs to be a software provider to 470. Isn't that right?
That is right. I got to know about Hover about 2 years ago at a PLRB. I went to the PLRB and I was told, you got to go look at Hover. They're doing crazy things. And sure enough, hopefully today we'll get to talk about those crazy things and just see kind of what a disruption they're doing in our industry.
Right. I mean, I consider them to be one of the foremost insurtech companies on the claims side. Would you agree with that assessment?
I would. I was at a conference one time and I listened to the CEO of Hover speak. And I heard a gentleman come up to him at the end and go, wow, how do y'all do what you do? It looks so easy. It looks so simple. It's so fast. What? And I think that's what the industry says. Whenever a new technology comes through and disrupts like Hover, it takes a really neat design. It takes a really neat idea. And so far, they've done a great job of implementing both.
Well, I know that it wasn't originally conceived for the claims industry, but
Right.
that evolved, and I'm sure we'll hear about that. And rather than you and I jabbering on, or you jabbering on, more specifically, why don't we just jump into the episode? And without further ado, Justin Hancher and Kevin Reilly from Hover. Hello, podcast world. Welcome to another exciting episode of FNO InsurTech. I'm Rob Beller, coming to you today from California, and we have with us in Waco, Texas, none other than
Lee Boyd. Hi, everybody. It's exciting to be back with y'all today.
And as we said at the top of the show, today we have two very exciting guests. It's the first time that we've entertained two guests at once. So bear with us as we go. But these guys are not just guests. I would call them friends and people that we've had a chance to work with over the past year and try stuff with. And it's exciting to have two people from Hover with us today. We have Kevin Reilly, who's in San Francisco today, and Justin Hancher. Where are you, Justin?
I am in Northern Virginia.
There you go.
Welcome, guys. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks. Great to be here, guys.
So let's jump right in. I want to talk about some of your guys' background really quick. Kevin, you have a particularly interesting background in that you've been in the imagery space for, we'll say, as a long time. Can you share with us where you came from and how you got involved in this?
Sure, Rob. So prior to Hover, I was president of Pictometry Business Solutions, which was a company in Rochester, New York, which ultimately ended up merging with one of our partners, Eagleview. And I was responsible for the insurance market, the construction market, and everything at Pictometry other than their government business. So I've kind of been involved in, deriving measurements from imagery right from the beginning of this industry, particularly as it relates to insurance.
Were you with Pictometry from the start?
No, I was not there from the start. Pictometry originally started as a company that was focused exclusively on government solutions and really got the image data set collected by structuring deals with county and state governments to collect data for tax assessing purposes. But it was an interesting business model because they retained the rights of the data to use in other business use cases. And so it took some time, but eventually the business decided to expand from government to commercial use cases, and that's when they brought me on, because I have a background in data and data solutions across a number of industries. And I really felt that imagery was the next great content play in many ways, with the ability to derive information from imagery. I got pretty excited and had talked to them for a while before I ultimately joined the company. But like I said, I was there at the beginning when we partnered up with EagleView and began to deliver remote measurement reports for roofing to that industry.
And the rest of that is kind of history in the claims business, yes? I mean, that's a bread and butter tool that's used today.
Yeah, I would say it was a major change in the way that roofing claims got estimated and settled. It resolved many of the issues around safety. Adjusters didn't have to climb the roof in many cases in order to get accurate measurements. Or if they did have to climb up just to validate damage, they didn't have to spend as much time up on the roof and pulling tape measure. And it's actually pretty difficult to manually measure a roof. Even after years of training, some adjusters will tell you it's still pretty difficult depending on the roof type and the slope. So yeah, it was a major innovation for both the roofing contractor market as well as the insurance claims market.
Kevin, you're right. Whenever I was out there adjusting claims, we always had pictometry and EagleView and all those things to choose from. Now, if I understand right, I just want to go back. Pictometry and EagleView merged. Is that correct? So they are now under the EagleView name. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. In 2012, definitive documents were signed to merge the two companies together. And, it was actually a win-win for both companies, because pictometry were experts at flying airplanes and collecting imagery and processing imagery. And then EagleView, which was a partner and a customer of pictometry, built their solution on top of pictometry's oblique aerial data set. And they took the approach of, hey, we're just going to give the answer to the contractor or the adjuster. So pictometry always had the ability for a user to do it themselves. And Lee, I think you and I talked that you had actually done that in the past prior to EagleView coming out. You could use pictometry online and you could sketch a roof accurately yourself. But what EagleView did that was innovative is they actually did it for you. So you could just order the roof report from the address, and the adjuster or contractor wouldn't have to learn any software, learn any sketching capabilities. You order it and you get the roof report delivered directly to you. So that was, combining the two companies made a lot of sense. And that was a deal that was a merger of the two companies. And then we took on the name of EagleView Technologies.
So obviously, great things happen there, revolutionary things happen there. How did you end up at Hover? But I mean, before we talk about Hover in detail, why don't you just tell us about how you went from one to the other and what's your job, what's your position there?
So I'm an executive vice president at Hover. I focus on strategic partnerships, strategy, and I'm also leading up our efforts in the insurance market. I met Hover kind of at the right around the time when we were merging with EagleView, and Hover was started in Palo Alto in 2011. And at the time, they were also delivering a government solution focused to help our armed forces in harm's way do better mission planning and situational awareness. That product was called Indigo Eye, and it was engineered to allow any type of imagery to come into the system. So whatever the Army or our Joint Special Ops Command or NGA, the National Geospatial Agency, any information they had could be ingested into this system. So it could be satellite, aerial, drone, or just smartphone photos from the ground. And Hover's platform, Indigo Eye, allowed users to stand up wide areas, so villages, towns, areas that weren't mapped all that well were able to be mapped in 3D using this technology, which helped our guys that were going into harm's way do better mission planning.
That is fascinating. Is that actually still being done by Hover now?
That product is still out there. I believe it's still in use, but when I met Hover, they had already made the decision, the investors, that they felt there were a lot of valuable commercial applications for the core technology. At its core, Hover's a machine learning technology that transforms smartphone photos of a home into a scaled and interactive 3D model. And when I met the company, they were actually interested in licensing pictometry imagery. And when I met them, I said, there's a lot of competition on the aerial and drone side, but I think your secret sauce is what you've done with smartphone sensors. I said, this is incredible. I haven't seen any solution that can go from 2D smartphone imagery through a machine learning process into scaled 3D measurements. And so
Right.
one thing led to another. And when we got we got the merger done, they actually came back to me and offered me a position as CEO of Hover. And I was so enamored with the technology, guys. I just, I felt it was an opportunity that was too good to pass up. So we made that change from focusing on the military solution to re-architecting the platform so that it was optimized for only smartphone data coming in. And we began to build our go-to-market strategy for our first vertical market, which was roofing and siding contractors.
And full disclosure, like I said at the top, we've had the opportunity to work with Hover and to use their product, and it's remarkable. I can have some idea of how impressed you must have been back then, the leap forward that your product takes from what was available before it.
Yeah, absolutely, Rob. It was the technology, it was the people, it was the investors who were backing the company. It was all those things together. I just knew that this was a group of individuals I wanted to work with. I knew that the company could do great things. They needed some guidance as far as the use cases. They weren't sure, coming from the military and special forces, going into commercial, so I helped lay out the plan. And the plan was, let's go to contractors first. Let's prove product market fit. And then because of some of the other requirements for insurers, we always chose that as our second vertical market. And so we ended up, being very successful in scaling the business pretty quickly. For the first 2 years, we were only in the exterior home improvement market, but we were able to forge relationships with some of the biggest companies in the industry, Home Depot, GAF, James Hardie, Renewal by Andersen, and we were able to access their contractor networks so that we got a lot of usage and support in that market. And then from there, we went into insurance, and that's about 2 years ago now that we've been in the insurance space.
Man, yeah, I have read a lot about Hover, and something that always impressed me was the backing. You do have some really neat investors and companies who are on the forefront of really neat things, and I can kind of see how it all can intertwine with each other.
Absolutely. The investors we have, they've done this before. They've built disruptive technology companies throughout their careers, and they really want to support technologies like Hover that are going to really make things more transparent and easier for people to, make decisions or do their jobs. And so, yeah, it's just been incredible working with this group of investors and this group of people. I can tell you, it's probably the most talented team I've worked with in my 30-year business career.
So can you share with us some of the other verticals that you guys are working in beside insurance?
So, as I mentioned, we're big in the home improvement market. Our solution is used for roofing, siding, windows, doors, anything on the exterior of the home. We're continuing to improve our design capabilities, and I would encourage anyone listening to the podcast to take a look at Hover's design capabilities. It's just incredible. You almost can't tell the difference between the photographs and the 3D models. From home improvement, within that vertical, we've moved from kind of the core materials manufacturers into, a big retailer like the Home Depot. We also have a deep and strategic partnership with Beacon Roofing Supply, where a roofer can actually order the materials once they're selected directly through the Hover app. So it goes right from photos to measurements to selecting the products to ordering. And then the nearest Beacon location will drop ship all those materials directly to the house. It's changed the siding industry dramatically, where before Hover, what would happen is a salesperson would measure the job, do a quote, and sell the job. And then before the materials were ordered, a remeasure technician would normally be sent out on site to do a remeasure so that they'd make sure the order of the materials was correct.
Sure, sure.
And that entire step has now been eliminated. So because of the accuracy of Hover's measurements and the fact that we identify, segment, and measure every single substrate on the house. So it identifies the type of material, classifies it, measures it, and then you can very accurately order product from that. So I want to make a point that even within these verticals, there's lots of kind of interesting new use cases coming out with Hover. From there, we've gone into insurance, initially focused on the claims use case, but we're moving into underwriting as well for virtual inspections. And then we're actually working with, on our roadmap are things like mortgage finance, real estate. You can think of anybody that needs accurate information on a property could benefit, from the Hover solution because it's so easy to use and it gives you, an exact depiction of what's on the ground at that moment, along with all the measurements that I mentioned.
So we have Justin hiding in the background there. Justin, can you share with us what you do, where you came from, and what you do for Hover?
Sure. So I've been with Hover nearly since the start, going on 5.5 years now. Have worn a lot of hats and watched as our company grown from 5 or 10 folks up to 120 folks. And over the last 2 years, I've worked pretty closely with Kevin as we open up the insurance claims market. And I handle all of the training and enablement for our product. I think we're rolled out now to about 50 carriers overall, including 4 of the top 10. And in addition to that, over the past year, as we get deeper and deeper within these claims organizations, they ask us for how they can get a Hover for every policy in force. And that's kind of what drummed up the interest in the underwriting product that Kevin mentioned. And on that product, folks really care about some different measurements. What's driving that replacement cost calculation really comes down to total living area and a number of other items like roof condition. So a big part of my 2018 was spent on helping develop that product. And we are moving into production with that product actually this week. So worn a lot of different hats, but my primary focus has been in the insurance industry over the last 2 years.
So you must know the product very well. And let me ask you if you can share this. What are some of the ways that your product is being used? You said you're in 4 of the top 10s. So obviously you're working with highly capable, sophisticated organizations. Can you share with the different ways that your product is being utilized? I'm sure it's not exactly the same in each company.
Sure, yeah. Every carrier's got a different setup, different workflows and processes, but there's primarily 3 workflows that they utilize our technology in. Number 1 is having their field adjuster utilize Hover out in the field. They'll just capture the images and then write their estimate once they have the Hover data package back, including the whole 3D model and all exterior measurements. The second workflow is having an independent adjusting firm like 470 or maybe a damage scoper utilize our technology. So that person will go out, scope the damage, but they'll use Hover for their measurements. And then lastly, and it's certainly the hot topic in the insurance space, is the virtual adjusting workflow, where an adjuster sends an invite to the policyholder to utilize the Hover app. Policyholder walks around their house, takes photos of the exterior damage in addition to the normal photos that Hover asks for of each face and corner around the property. And with that information, the adjuster can write their estimate without ever having to make that visit on site.
How is that going? How is it with the insured or the contractor receiving the link? Is that working well for you?
Yeah, it's very, very well received. Among the top 10 carriers that we're chatting about that utilize this technology, they're finding an acceptance rate nearly 90% from homeowners, which is, I think, surprising them. It's much higher acceptance rate than they've gotten from other technologies where they get the insured involved. And I think a lot of that comes down to the benefits that we're providing the insured as well. It's not that we're just asking them to capture photos or video or anything like that. Homeowners actually getting access to those measurements as well. So it's another level of transparency between them and their carrier. And they can utilize those measurements both as part of that claim, and should they have any home improvement projects in the future, they'll also have access to those measurements as they get quotes and bids from contractors. They'll also have access to that 3D model for design purposes, should they have any home improvement projects. And at the end of the day, what ultimately matters is cycle time and customer satisfaction. And we've got real life examples now, thousands, if not tens of thousands of times where homeowners are getting paid within hours after FNOL versus days or even weeks.
You know, Justin, that was one of the real big selling points that I liked about Hover was that the homeowner gets access to the report. And I've seen this report, you know, for all of our audience members. It's a fascinating report. It is this 3D image of a home that you can spin around. You could change the color of the elevation. You could pick out the type of materials to change or repair your home. It can be used in just a myriad of different ways. I think that is a fantastic offering that you have. And I know personally that one of our desk adjusters said that was a big selling point to them actually using the software. They were able to sell it to the insured, how quick and easy it was, and then the benefit about it. All of our desk adjusters have used this at some point, either with a field representative using it or a insured. And we've had great feedback. It's very simple. It's very quick. It's the cycle times are wonderful, and the turnaround time from your company is very good. So good work.
So share, Justin, if you would, a couple of use cases or situations or claim specifics where your tool is just the right fit.
On the virtual adjusting side, certainly any claim that involves an elevation. So whether it's a wind claim or wind loss where siding got ripped off a few elevations, we find many carriers are utilizing hover technology for those types of claims. Vehicle impact claims, someone runs a car into their garage. It's amazing to me how many of those we get each day. And certainly certain types of roof claims as well. You know, if a tree falls on a house, homeowner or adjuster can snap those photos. Adjuster never has to get on a roof for those types of dangerous situations. And many carriers are starting to be pretty innovative on how they utilize weather analytics. So if they've got weather analytics that say, yes, this roof is Swiss cheese, 3-inch hail impacted this roof, we're going to be replacing this roof, they'll have the homeowner just snap those photos with the Hover app and they'll write their estimate from the desk. And we've also got carriers who, maybe they will send a field adjuster out for a claim or two within a neighborhood. But once they've done that and seen that they're replacing those roofs, they'll use Hover for any other claim that comes within that area of the hail swath. So it really just depends on the carrier, how comfortable they are with different weather analytics, but we certainly get utilized on a wide variety of claim types, including vandalism and theft as well.
Hey, Justin, can you walk us through how we actually use the product? Kind of explain, is it just photos that we upload? Do you use anything other than photos? But, if I'm an adjuster or an insured, what do I actually have to do? How hard or easy is it?
Oh, it's very easy. So if it's an adjuster that's utilizing the Hover app, they essentially open up the Hover 3D app when they're on site at the house, and the app guides them around the house, taking 8 photos, one of each face and corner around the property. They'll just do their best to capture as much of that home in each shot as possible. Those photos will then result in the 3D model and all exterior measurements, typically within a couple hours. As it relates to getting a homeowner involved, whether it's, desk adjuster sending that invite or maybe field adjuster, the process is the same. They can send that invite to the homeowner both through our mobile app or our web platform. And they simply type in a few bits of information about the homeowner, put in the homeowner's name, email address, cell phone number, address, and which measurements they want, whether it's complete measurements or just the roof measurements. They'll click invite the homeowner. Homeowner will get an email and a text message that says something like, Rob Beller from 470 Claims is asking you to download the Hover app, take photos of your property to speed up the processing of your claim. They click that email or text message, we auto detect exactly what type of device they're on, take them to the appropriate app store. They open up the app, they'll just quickly create a password, and they're logged in and tied to the IA firm or the carrier on our back end. So the homeowner will walk around, take those normal 8 photos. They'll also take photos of the damage close up. And when they click finish and that Hover job's done, homeowner gets access to all of the different information that we've mentioned as part of the Hover data package. Homeowner doesn't see any type of billing information or anything like that. And then the adjuster gets all of that information as well. At the end of the day, homeowners' involvement is 5 minutes max, just walking around their house and taking a few photos.
That is fantastic. And it is that easy. Yeah, I do want to ask, because it has been a few weeks since I've been to the Hover website, but is it possible for our listeners to download a Hover or get one on their property?
Absolutely. We encourage them to download the Hover app. Our app is available on both Apple and Android devices, so both smartphones and tablets. You just go to the App Store on your device, search Hover 3D, download the app, and first time you open up the app, you should sign up as a professional, and you'll get $125 in free credit to try Hover on a property or two.
Fantastic.
I want to talk about disruption with you guys because I'm sure that's something that's on a lot of people's minds in the claims area. And the four of us have talked plenty of times. You know that disruption's on our mind every day. I'm interested in both of your takes, starting with you, Kevin. Say, what are you trying to disrupt, or what is it that Hover is changing or going to change in the claims function?
Yeah, Rob, it's a good question. Justin mentioned earlier that although we work with a lot of carriers, many of the workflows that they've implemented were developed for their business. But I do see some common themes across all insurance carriers. One is reducing cost and improving loss ratios. Another is improving efficiencies and reducing cycle times. Those are the first two. Improving customer experience is always a goal. Implementing virtual solutions, so being able to do more digitally, is on the mind of all carriers, and collecting more accurate data so they can do better analytics. I mean, those are 5 things I see across every carrier. And I would say that Hover's bringing transparency to many processes that, in the past were kind of difficult to get insights to, particularly for the insured. A lot of times the insured, wasn't aware of how their, the settlement number was being derived, or, how they were being indemnified. And the fact that all of our customers are sharing this information immediately with the insured and saying, here's how we calculated your loss, here's how the estimate was done. It's reduced friction. It's not only helped across all those 5 items that I mentioned, it's providing transparency. And so we're seeing, fewer supplemental claims and disputes with contractors. And, by being able to get all that information right up front and share it with the policyholder, they're just tremendously appreciative of that. And of course, that a happy customer is a good customer. There are acquisition costs that these insurance companies, have invested to get that customer, and they don't want to lose that customer. They want to keep that customer happy. Customers recognize, hey, I'm paying premiums, and when they have a loss, they want to be serviced. They want to feel like they're important. They don't want to wait days or weeks. And so the fact that they can take an action step in many cases, or we can deliver on these items of reducing cycle times and providing transparency and improving the overall customer experience through better data, it really fits into a lot of the key performance objectives that the senior leaders of P&C companies are focused on right now.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add on top of that, and Kevin mentioned it a little bit, is homeowners do want to get involved in the process often, and they're willing to help out. To date, there haven't been many technologies that allow them to do that. Whereas now, I hate to age you guys, but I'm probably the only millennial on the call. And myself and folks like me, we don't want to have someone on site. We don't want to spend more than 5 minutes on the phone with anyone. I'd like to just go out there, capture some photos of myself and have the money in my bank account within a matter of hours versus scheduling a 4-hour block for someone to come out to my house 2 weeks from now. So, millennials are certainly a rising piece of the homeownership pie. And folks like myself are going to expect to be able to handle claims this way, certainly in the future. And already that's why many carriers are looking to disrupt things with new technologies like Hover.
Full disclosure, I have shoes that are millennials. So let's just set that right. Although I think Lee, you might be a millennial. Are you millennial? You're like upper edge.
Yeah, me and my wife had a conversation last night, and we were born in the year that the millennial started, or 1 year after. So yeah,
Welcome to the club.
Thank you. Technically, I'm there. I've been told I'm not, but technically, age-wise, I'm there with you.
So, one of the interesting things that your product does, and it's by design and by accident, I mean, in my view, is that you also give the homeowner something of value, right? I mean, besides settling the claim and settling it quickly, they have this 3D view and tool of their home, right? I mean, that's very unique for a claims product.
Yeah, carriers are looking to provide value whenever they can, and this is an easy one for them. They can, as long as that homeowner is a customer or remains a customer, they've sponsored their Hover job, and we as Hover leave that model accessible up in the cloud, and that homeowner has unlimited access on a perpetual basis to that model. So again, it's a service that the carrier, can provide, give something back to the homeowner. And the homeowners that we've talked to really appreciate it as they're doing future projects on their home. Could be as simple as painting the exterior and taking a look at what different colors and options would look like. Or it could be a more significant home improvement project that's not claims related, but it's just an improvement that a homeowner wants to make on the home. We are continually enhancing that. So being able to add new, substrates to the home, or even, additions and other items to your home. So it's just going to keep getting better and better and better. And so absolutely, that's something, there are solutions out there that try to involve the homeowner. I think where Hover really is unique is that we're not only giving, kind of something back, we're deriving structured data that the carrier needs to actually, estimate and resolve the claim. So it's that structured data set that the carrier needs, and the homeowner really appreciates the design and the 3D model and being able to access it in perpetuity, even after their claim and that particular repair is done and completed.
Right. Here with all of our times of actually using Hover within our virtual platform, we have been able to really show some fantastic data to the carriers and then to the insureds. We've been able to decrease cycle times, and we've been able to give accurate measurements. And I really think accuracy is one of my very favorite features of Hover. We're able to go to an insurance carrier and say, this is a platform that we believe can deliver an accurate product, because accuracy is so much more than just ordering the right amount of roofing or the right amount of siding or the size of windows. It decreases supplements, it decreases your cycle time, and the cost associated with supplements is very large. It's the known cost, but then it's also the unknown cost of losing a customer or upsetting a customer, and then all the negativity that goes with that. So we have really enjoyed Hover, and I believe that we plan to continue to push the use of Hover in our own claims platform.
Yeah, it's great. You guys jumped on early, which is great. We've had some wins together, as you all know, and I think it shows the flexibility of your company, in that you're looking to bring in new technologies. You're looking to be able to become experts in those technologies, and then you're turning around and offering that to your carrier customers as a differentiator, and you're able to actually offer kind of a broader menu of services depending on which direction that carrier wants to go. So, it's been great working with you guys, and hopefully, we'll be able to continue to expand and offer this to more carriers this year.
So I'm interested, a couple other questions about your company. And can you share with us some of the companies that have invested in Hover and who you've partnered with?
I think so. I mean, our initial core group of investors were venture guys from Silicon Valley who were the original investors in companies like Google, Amazon, Intel, Netscape. Some of the biggest companies in technology, have been funded early on by our investors. More recently brought in Google Ventures. That's now our largest investor. And we actually have some strategics that ended up being customers who were so enamored with the platform that they asked to come into one of our rounds of funding. So we, our insiders were, gracious enough to step aside and allow some of our strategic accounts to also invest. So it's just a real solid group of companies and venture investors that are, have supported the company and, just believe that this is going to change not only, exterior home improvement and insurance, but a number of other verticals as well on our roadmap.
Well, yeah, and that's exactly where I wanted to go. I mean, with backers like that, they are 100 steps ahead in what they're doing, right? They're thinking so far out in the future. I did hear you say a little bit about the underwriting on the future of your roadmap. Is there anything else you could allude to on this conversation?
Well, let's talk a little bit about underwriting because we just touched on it very briefly. So based on the good work we are doing with a lot of carriers and claims, we actually were asked if we could develop a virtual inspection product for underwriting. The output from that product, as Justin mentioned, is a little bit different. There's a huge focus on, delivering very accurate total living area and also, condition of the exterior of the property. But when it's a virtual inspection, as opposed to, kind of a professional inspector going out, if you have the homeowner actually taking these photos, you have an opportunity to also get some interior information, which certainly would affect the replacement cost of that structure. Things like basements, attics, kitchens, master bathrooms. And we're able to derive, a bunch of information that frankly is far more detailed than what even a physical inspection typically provides. We can do that at less cost, and we can do that by involving the homeowner. We are actually working with some inspection companies as well, but I think the carriers are really excited about the idea of virtual inspection. I mean, many carriers would like to inspect more properties than they're able to today, but because of the cost, they don't. I mean, there are carriers that inspect 100% of new policies, but many of them are only able to inspect, maybe 10 or 20% of new policies. So by involving the homeowner and being able to very easily just snap some photos, and then we do our magic and deliver back this structured data set. And we're working on tying that into, other parts of the ecosystem through various integrations. You're able to get a replacement cost calculation and an idea of condition that is going to be, really game changing, we believe.
And on top of that, we've been in pilot or beyond now with 4 of the top 20 carriers in the US, and they're all testing different workflows of getting the homeowner involved. Some are actually getting the homeowner involved with the agent's help pre-bind. Others are going direct to the homeowner post-bind to replace that on-site inspection. And others are utilizing our technology instead of, they're going straight to the homeowner instead of doing a renewal inspection. I think the most interesting thing as we've dug into the underwriting industry is just how inaccurate a lot of the data that these carriers use, relying on public data sets that could be very, very outdated, but they're very, very inaccurate too. Just yesterday, we were taking a look at a couple example properties with the top 10 carrier or properties that were involved in our pilot. And between the county data, the Zillows of the world, all the public data said this house had no basement. But the homeowner took photos of a finished basement. So that number was not included at all in this carrier's replacement cost calculation, or wouldn't have been if they weren't going direct to the homeowner and having that homeowner use Hover.
So as we continue to drive, costs down in our business, we believe we can open this up to more and more verticals. So real estate is one. And if you think about, imagine the value for both the buyer and the seller if they could see what some simple design changes on the home would look like. You hear about curb appeal and, if you just put a coat of paint on the house, it's going to look a lot different. Well, now you can see it. You can see exactly what some of these improvements would be. Imagine having a spinning 3D model on every single real estate listing. Imagine being able to, move around the house in 3D, visualizing and changing things in 3D. Imagine if you're the mortgage finance company that's putting a loan on that property. Well, you'd like to know as much about that property as you could to know what you're financing. Imagine, eventually, going back into the assessor space. County governments want to know, what's on that parcel. There are aerial data sets out there, but, it's expensive to fly. And if the county government's paying for it, many times they don't have the budget to refly that county every year. Many counties are struggling to fly, every 5 years. So if there was a way to have the homeowner participate or even the assessor on site and be able to get, an accurate depiction of what's on that parcel, that'd be very valuable for the county to know. I mean, Lee, the list kind of goes on and on. I mean, we save architects and engineers a ton of time when they're doing modeling. Our data outputs into any 3D, CAD program. So, imagine starting a project from scratch where you have to build in a CAD program the entire structure just to do an addition. Instead, you just hover the property, everything exports in 3D, the entire sketch is there, the entire 3D model is there, and all you need to do is then add the addition. It saves, many, many hours of time and a lot of cost. So architects, engineers, appraisers, assessors, real estate professionals, and mortgage finance companies are just some of the examples. But what we seek to do is to make everything as easy as we can, to provide as much value back as we can. And so, we are very focused on insurance still. There's a lot of growth, a lot of good work that we're still planning to do. But at the right time, we will move into some of these other verticals. But, again, we're very focused on serving our enterprise customers, all of our users in home improvement and insurance.
Kevin, you mentioned driving efficiencies, and one of the big things we'll be doing in 2019 is integrating with many more platforms and technologies, both on the underwriting and claim sides, to help, at the end of the day, speed up the cycle time, keep the carrier customer happy. So integrations will certainly be an important part of 2019 as we drive efficiencies for adjusters, both virtual and field. I guess on that note, a lot of what drives our development and how we prioritize new features is customer feedback. So if there are any current Hover customers listening to today's podcast, we certainly ask you to reach out anytime, contact us through our website. We're happy to listen to feature requests and other items that might make your life easier out in the field or behind the desk.
Yeah, and any listeners could feel free to funnel that through us or through Hover directly. How do they contact you, Justin? Justin at hover.to.
TO. Yep, that's exactly right. Justin at hover.to.
Okay, cool. Listen, we are thrilled to have you guys and really enjoyed the conversation today. As we've said several times during this, these are people that we're very familiar with and a product that we're very familiar with and have enjoyed using, and look forward to the future and being part of the Hover team, as well as having you guys involved with us at 470. So we thank you for your time today, and come join us again, okay?
Thank you, guys.
Will do. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you guys for inviting us. Enjoyed the conversation.
Lee, I was nervous about this particular show.
Why is that, Rob?
Well, because for all the episodes that we've done about InsurTech, we've never had on a real InsurTech company, and today was the first time.
Yeah, you're right. They really were. We had announced them at the beginning of the podcast that we would have them on at some point. So it's kind of nice to see that actually come true.
Yeah.
But they're not the only ones. We have a lot of them lined up.
No, we have a number in the hopper waiting for their episodes to be recorded, and that's really excited. But as we said throughout today, full disclosure, we wanted to start here because this is a technology that we know well, that we've seen, that we've inserted into our workflows, so that we know how to use it. And as you've said to me before, because you have much more touch on this, it works and it was successful.
Well, yeah, it does. And I actually downloaded this at my home. It was one morning around 7 o'clock. I had seen them at PLRB and I went to their website and I downloaded it. And I thought, well, let me see how easy it is. And I downloaded it to my iPad. And it walked me through how to take the 8 photos. You take one from the front, the corner, and so forth. I went all around my home, and it rendered, and it came out looking just beautiful. The brick was brick, the roof was roof, all of the windows matched up, even the grids and the windows matched up. It is as detailed as you could imagine. And then from there, we were able to use it within our own platform, and I've seen the measurements. I've actually seen where wind damaged the siding before and took off about, I believe it was 124 square feet of siding. And the measurements captured saying we have 500 square feet of vinyl siding on the home, and we have 124 square feet of wood, showing where the actual siding was measured. It is that granular.
Wow.
Just a really neat application. And I've asked a lot of people who have used it on the virtual side as desk adjusters, and I said, "What do you think?" And they all say, "We love it, game changer, big deal, big deal."
Right. Right. Yeah, I remember when we were doing the first pilot with them last year, I remember you telling me that the desk adjusters that had hands on to it, that you only heard good things. And
Yeah, only
that's
good
not
thing.
normal or ordinary.
No, and I talked to Justin really early on, and he said, we believe we have a 90% acceptance rate whenever using it with the insured. And I said, yeah, whatever. No way. No way. Everybody says that. But sure enough, the times we did it, the insureds were just as excited to do it because it's that easy. We found great use with contractors, sending out to the contractors of the home, and they were able to help us out.
Sure. I mean, why wouldn't they be motivated to do that? It's good
Yeah.
for them. It's good for them.
The other thing about them that I'm really always excited about, I say this a lot, but it's where the companies are going. And whenever I understood who their backers were early on with Google, Home Depot, and now their new one with Google Ventures, just I think that they are on the road to do some amazing things. I love the additional verticals that they're getting into while they're still focused on insurance, because as they get into the real estate market, the city markets, things like that, everything that they learn in the other markets will be brought back into the insurtech world. So it's a very, very exciting times.
And like I said, I want to underscore this. They do something that almost nothing else does in the claims business or in the insurtech world, that at least that comes to mind right now. And that is that they give the insured a kind of a fun toy to use.
Right.
To the insured's benefit. Yeah, it helps settle the claim, and it helps it goes faster, and it helps and it more accurate. Yes, yes, yes. But it also, just on a practical level, gives the insured an opportunity to see what their house would look like if it's blue instead of green, or
Yeah.
or if they change the siding, or if they change the roofing type. I mean, these are things that homeowners care about. Right? I mean,
Right.
yeah, a homeowner cares that their claim is settled and completed, but once it's done, that's usually the end of the relationship. And this gives the carrier an opportunity to carry on a relationship with the homeowner past the claim process. I think it's a really interesting.
Well, a lot of insurance companies have talked about, how do I be the company that our client wants to go visit their website every day, right? Like on my banking app, it has budget applications, it has my actual account, it has more lifestyle things. And insurance companies have tried that, and a lot of times they found that no, they only want to come whenever they have a problem, right? Well, this is another feature, a little gift that they can give their insureds to say, hey, we're more than just a claims company where you buy and sell policies. Come on. And I think that the more the insured tech companies realize the insured's benefit, we're going to get further and further. And this is a great example. You're right. I live in Waco, right? And Waco is home to Magnolia, where everybody wants to come here and talk to Chip and Joanna and change their home. Everybody wants to renovate their home. What a neat application right now, where sure, it's used to settle claims, it's used to buy siding, but it's also used to envision a different world. So really neat.
Right, right. I also enjoyed the conversation, and I think about them when I think about disruption. This technology can be used by an adjuster. This technology can be used by a non-professional homeowner, whoever it may be. But that has to feed back to a trained professional to deal with, right?
Yeah, you're right. We're still looking at technology that is, becoming more and more user friendly. It's becoming more simple to use, and it does still have to feedback.
Well, it was a fun episode, and we'll look forward to next time. Our next episode that we're going to be recording is with a really interesting insurtech company called Planner.
Right. New to the block.
New to the block. So tune in next time. We thank you and we appreciate you listening. And this is Rob Beller and Lee Boyd saying
Goodbye.